Hi, welcome to Local Matters. Today we have another important matter, education. I have two guests with me, and I know you're going to learn a lot today from them. Charan, Cline, the superintendent of Yamhill-Carlton School District, and Kathy Bales, a 22-year teacher in both Yamhill and Carlton. They've come to talk to us about the good news that's going on there and the needs that they have, and we're going to be talking about the bond measure, and you're going to hopefully be understanding the need by the time we're done. So, thank you so much for coming today and being able to tell the folks about the good news that's going on at YC. I live in Yamhill, so it's near and dear to my heart. My kids graduated from all the way through Yamhill-Carlton schools, and I'm still connected, and I certainly care. And I'm glad you're here to talk about it today. Oh, let's talk about some of the good news that's happening in Yamhill and Carlton.
Sure.
Charan, what's top of the list?
Well, thanks for having us on, Ken. Really, it's kind of fun to be here. We've got all kinds of great things happening in our school district. All the way from kindergarten up through our senior year. A few things that are happening at the high school right now are kind of exciting. As many people in our community know, we've moved to an all proficiency-based education system, which means we're more focused on what students prove to us that they know and are able to do, as opposed to did you get your homework done on time. That's been a big switch for our high school, actually a big switch of our middle and high school. But so far the results have been really good. One thing it gives us the opportunity to do is if a student fails a class, instead of just redoing the whole class, they have to just redo several proficiencies to get credit for it. And that gives us the opportunity to help students make up their work and go through as well. And we're excited about that. And the great thing happening in the high schools, we recently got a grant to create a career academy.
Now, can we just stop? That sounds like
sure.
a big subject.
Sure,
I'd like
sure.
to go back to proficiency just for a moment.
Sure.
Now, you've been preparing to introduce this for a few years, but this is the first year that it's been in the classroom. Is that right?
Well, we've been preparing to do it for a few years, and we piloted it in numbers of classrooms. We piloted it in our Spanish classes. We piloted it in one of our high school science classes. We worked on kind of little pieces of it here and there, but this is the first year we implemented a grading system that forced it. And so our grading system is now proficiency-based.
And this is a choice that school districts have, whether to use this system or a grades-based system or other type of system. And you as a superintendent in league with the school board,
and the administrative
staff have made this choice, and you're happy about it. I mean, this is the way to go.
I really believe it's the right way to teach kids. It puts education into more of a context. You're not learning things just because the teacher told you to. You're learning things because there's a reason for it. And not only are you asked to tell us what the right answer is, you're asked to tell us why you know it, how you know it, and we're able to take that information and move on next. We're working on trying to increase student engagement. And our basic themes in our school district are proficiency-based assessment and student ownership of their learning. And that's it. Everything else wraps around that. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. It's education that's been around since the beginning of time. The idea is that, we're teaching you how to do something, and you show us that you can do it. We move on.
All right. I'd stop you right at the edge of this academy.
Oh, yeah, sure. The Career Academy. Interesting thing we're developing at the high school. As some of your viewers know, we put a lot of investments the last couple of years back into our career technical ed programs. And for us, that's specifically our agricultural program and our manufacturing program at the high school. But we asked the question, what's the best way to do that? We were kind of making it up as we go. We started doing research, and we ran into a thing called a Career Academy. It's a research-based way to educate kids, mixes both academics and career type stuff, focuses us working with local businesses. In fact, we just took a trip to Atlanta, Georgia, paid for by the grant, to look at some schools in Atlanta that are using it actually as a way of developing their economy. They're using education dollars to get students ready to work in local businesses. Then they're attracting businesses saying, if you'll move your business here, we will go ahead and make sure that we've got workers who can work for you.
So the educational dollars become an economic development tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and we believe that is smart thinking. And at Yamhill-Carlton, we're working in our local, kind of smaller manner to make that true for us as well.
Now, I heard you say agriculture and manufacturing.
Those are our major areas, yes.
And Can you break down what kind of agriculture, what kind of manufacturing is going on?
Well, we've got a couple different things. We do a kind of a range of things in agriculture. Our big marquee event is we have an acre and a half of grapes planted out there. So teaching students about viticulture, how to grow the grapes, not about how to make the wine, but how we work through that. We also do some large animal stuff. We have greenhouses where we'll do some starts for ornamental plants and that sort of thing. And that's going to start ramping back up. We're starting a project in hydroponics. So how can you grow things inside without soils? So a variety of that. Manufacturing, we're mostly looking at fabrication, metal fabrication, wood fabrication. We're doing things specifically on projects. For instance, a project we're doing right now is our high school students are building tables and desks for the middle school. And we need to start replacing our furniture. It's starting to fall apart. But instead of just going out and buying the furniture, we're instead buying the materials for the kids to go through and look at what they need and then build it. And so we're, again, spending the same money twice. We're spending the money for them spending money once and get two results out of it, right? So the kids go through, they interview people, they research the right way to make a project, they run that by our business partners. So they say, hey, here's our plan. Our business partners will say, oh, have you thought about using this kind of material? Or make sure you're checking this in your budget process. Then the students will go back and now they're producing things, and those will soon get into our middle school classrooms. And so very real-based kind of work. It's exciting, really exciting stuff.
I've heard there's drones flying in the high school.
There are, yes. And we have an after-school program right now working on agricultural drones. We had a farmer come to us, both with our ag program and our manufacturing program, and say, hey, I would like to help you purchase a drone. So it was kind of bought both with a farmer, the local farmer, and with us. And he wants a drone that can go out, fly through his fields and take pictures of it with near-infrared photography, eventually turn that into a computer program that he can dump back into his sprayer, and then as he goes out and sprays chemicals on his fields, it shows him how much to put on based on the water content and how much things are growing and stuff out there. And so we've got a whole crew of kids after school, about 20 of them after school, who are working with an engineer from Intel. One of our local math teachers is working on it, and we're developing this project that's going to take a while, but once it's there, it's going to be something that's both commercially applicable, will serve our local needs, and then teaches kids these great skills. I was in there last night. They're in soldering stuff, and they're actually building the drones. They're flying up and down the hallway. It's pretty neat stuff.
So the results of the photographs will come back and be on the tractor and maybe tied into a GPS.
Yeah, right.
Where your tractor is in the field may affect the controls, either it's
Right.
manual with the farmer or it's automatic.
No, it's automatic.
Automatic.
Well, that's the goal.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's a great goal.
Obviously, there's a big process that comes from flying a drone up and down the hallway to being able to run a pattern like this. But there's software out there that does
Yeah.
it. There's people out there that are starting to do this. It's done commercially with airplanes already. Our goal is to give your local farmer the ability to just do it themselves.
Yeah.
And so we think it's going to be a big thing once it's ready. But either way, what a great applicable project for students. And this is an after-school project. And we have kids just crawling all over themselves to get involved with it. It's pretty neat.
Cool education. That is really great. Well, Kathy, let's jump over to you. What's happening in the middle school that
we have
you want
lots
to
of
brag
things
about?
going on. Battle of the Books just ended. We had a team from the junior high that's going to participate at the state level.
Tell us about that, Battle of the Books.
Yeah, Battle of the Books is a thing where each grade level gets, I think they run K-5 and then 6-8, and they have an advisor, and they read, the state puts out a list of books, and they read those books and numerous times because they have to pull out like little tiny bits of information. They might have to know who wore the red hat in the book or whatever. They're just crazy questions. And so our 7th and 8th grade team just qualified to go to state this past weekend. That's really exciting for us. We're all gearing up for testing. That starts at the end of April. Kids are doing great work. They're performing math tasks and writing essays, and the expectations are high, and they're achieving. They're showing us that they want to do well, and so that kind of thing. We also have, I'm going to put a plug in for outdoor school because I teach 6th grade. we go to outdoor school in May. We'll go to Trickle Creek. It's down by Salem. And I'd just really like to thank the community because it costs each kid $210 to go to outdoor school, and our community has helped us raise almost all of it. We have one fundraiser left. That's the Boots and Barbecue. It happens April 2nd in the high school gym at 6 o'clock. And all that money goes toward, the 5th grade is helping put it on, and they will get money toward next year. And then the 6th graders will finish out what they owe with that fundraiser.
So outdoor school isn't free.
No,
it's
it is
not paid
not.
for by the school district.
No, it is not.
And it costs $200
$210 per kid.
per child. How many kids are going?
78.
So that's around $16,000
Yes.
that you're raising from the community to send all those kids for free.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the community really gets behind this. We're very thankful for them. Our communities, Carlton and Yamhill, are very supportive of our kids and of our fundraisers. They're both small communities, as you well know, coming from Yamhill, and yet they have fundraisers for everything. The softball team is selling cookie dough, and we're selling just about everything, and asking them to come to Boots and Barbecue. And during Christmas, some group was selling fruit boxes. And these two communities, they really step up and help us out a lot. And so that's huge when they're small. And so, we're just really thankful for their help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could probably talk a lot more about what are the great things that are going on at school.
We could spend a lot of time on it.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on. I told the audience we were going to talk about the bond measure today.
Yep.
It's a big subject, and I want to save enough time to get a good look at that.
Yeah.
So give us a little history, Charan. The status and the history are kind of tied together. There's been some efforts through the past. Would you bring us up to date?
Well, there's been at least 8 different efforts in the last 21 years to pass a bond in the Yamhill-Carlton area. A very small bond was passed back in 2001 that was used to do some improvements, some very needed improvements. But at that time, when that was passed, the board knew that they were passing a bond that was only going to handle 10 years worth of improvements, but all they thought they could get passed at the time. And so they did their best. There's been a lot of controversy about whether those dollars were spent well or not. As far as I can tell, they spent it as well as they were able to, considering the amount of need that they have and the work that had to get done.
So maybe there was more need than they had estimated. And so some of the things
Well,
that
it wasn't
they were...
more need than they estimated. It
Okay.
was more need than they were able to get money for.
Okay, so some of the things they were wanting to fix maybe didn't get fixed because there wasn't enough money.
Well, yeah.
The bond was not enough to fix everything that was needed at that
no,
time.
not even close.
Not even close.
Right.
Okay, so
And they knew at the time they did their best.
and it was more than 10 years ago, and they were hoping that would.
15 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 things were working against them: not enough money at the time, and now it's 16 years later instead of 10 years later.
Right.
Okay, so that's the one bond that's passed in the last 21 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think longer than that, but at least those are the records I have of people trying things.
Okay.
I've been here 3.5 years, and at the end of my first year, as I went looking around the district, and I got an assessment done. In the springtime of that, I brought in a whole team of professionals to take a look at it, and the report they gave me about the school district was pretty dire. The amount of things that were breaking, the amount of things that were going to break, the roofing that had to get done, many millions and millions of dollars of repairs that had to get done. And so we started off with our first opportunity to do a bond, and we pulled people together and we talked with folks. A lot of local people got together and developed a plan. Things we were trying to do. We were trying to do a gymnasium. We were trying to repair the schools that we had. We were trying to do music practice rooms. We were trying to do expand our elementary school to handle more students, put a cafeteria in and stuff. And it was a $23 million bond, and the community didn't pass it. We lost that one by 183 votes, 2%. And we were defeated. Thinking, oh man, that's horrible. What are we going to do? Because our buildings are crumbling. I mean, they're literally crumbling around us. And so This time, we considered, well, what are we going to do? So last spring, we put out a survey. We had a professional survey outfit ask the community about what it is that they were willing to support. And they said, well, they're willing to support, they weren't interested in building new schools, but they were interested in repairing the ones that we already had. So we said, okay, we can work on repairing the ones we've already had. They were interested in doing some work around career technical ed. It was very, very important to folks to make sure that we were educating folks for the future in terms of science, career ed, that sort of thing. We said, okay, we'll put some good work in that. Our science rooms are falling apart anyway, so we needed to work on it. So we've developed this bond around the community priorities, and it ends up being about a $14.2 million bond. And it is 38% less than last time. It's about $1 less per thousand than last time. Last time was at $2.30. This time we're at $1.36, so a little less than $1 per thousand. And it's really very much focused on community need, the community priorities. Now there's a lot more need than we're trying to do, but it's there. Then we were lucky enough. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, we've got this graphic up
Oh, yeah,
on the screen now. Maybe you could talk us through that.
Sure. We were lucky enough to get a $4 million match. The state of Oregon passed a small amount of, well, not a small amount of money, small money for the need of being able to give districts matches if they pass bonds. And so we didn't qualify in terms of our wealth. It was first put in terms of poverty based on census. Well, if you look at the census value, Yamhill-Carlton is not high in need in terms of poverty. People that live around the area might argue that point, but that's what the census data tells us.
Yes.
But we did put in but they also had another section where you could put in for kind of a random draw. It was called a first come, first serve. And what they did is on a certain day, they said, okay, everybody's interested, put in your applications in it. So it's 7:59, right before I was ready with the button, and I pushed it in there, and everybody that put their names in within a certain time period got their names put in a hat, and they drew it out. And we were lucky enough to be drawn out third. And so if we pass this $14 million bond, we will get a $4 million match, making our budget about $18 million, $18.2 million.
So 18.2 is going to satisfy the plans that you had.
No, it'll
that you
satisfy.
have.
It'll satisfy the plans that we have. It doesn't.
Yes.
It does. It's much smaller in scope than the bond was last time. Yeah.
What you came back from the community survey with was about an $18.2 million price tag.
Well, we could spend a lot more than that, but
Okay.
we believe we'll get most of it done. Yeah.
So this match, this $4 million match, just reduces that bond.
Yes.
And so it's quite an incentive to pass this bond, I would say.
I believe that.
Without passing the bond, we don't get the $4 million.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Okay. So that's a pretty good incentive, it seems to me, looking at that pie
It's
chart.
free money to the community. It's
Yeah.
money you don't have to pay back, and it enriches the community because we'll use those things to build a more solid community.
Well, we've got another
Yeah.
graphic up here. When you say using those things to build something, tell us about what's on the screen.
Well, building schools is very expensive. When the average person looks at the price of building a school compared to building a house or building a barn or building a shop, people just fall out of the chairs. It's just really expensive. I mean, I work with it every day, and every time I hear the price of building a school, I almost have a heart attack. It's just really expensive. And so we started looking for other ways to build. And we had a community member send us a news article that was done in Utah about a builder or an architect who builds domed schools. So they build schools all over mostly through Texas and the Midwest, out of concrete, thin-shell dome construction. So we took a look. I called the architect up, and they flew us down to Texas. And the one you're looking at there is a gymnasium that was done in Woodsboro, Texas. Seats about 1,000. That's roughly what we're looking for. It's absolutely earthquake safe and major storm safe. So
Absolutely earthquake. I mean the big one.
Yeah.
It's going to survive the big one.
Maybe not a 10 because that would be
Oh, well,
maxed out.
we're talking 9.
But 9.5, yeah, it should ride the whole thing out.
Wow.
It's as seismically as sound as you can build. Because the way it works, the whole thing is total steel and concrete. It's really the way it's poured. It becomes one unit. When our building fails from an earthquake, it fails at the hinge points.
joints.
It fails at the joints. It doesn't have any joints. And so if it shakes, the whole thing rides on top of the ground. It just rides like a boat on top
There's
of the
nothing to
ground.
come
It's
apart
seven-
if it's steel from...
Right. I mean, you got anchor stuff on the inside so it doesn't fall, stuff fall, but
Yeah.
but the shell itself will ride really well. So what we're looking to do is build what's both a gymnasium and a community disaster shelter. We're going to put a generator that hooks on this, so if something happens, we lose power, we can generate that, keep people heat and cool. I mean, if you have an earthquake in the summertime, it's not that big of a deal. We have it in the middle of winter, like now. You have people that need a lot of help, and so we're going to make that so space that people can gather.
Wow, that is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Now, there was a community meeting around that dome that I was at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a lot of excitement there. The architect was there that has used these around the country. He's built a lot of different kinds of structures, and his comment about it was, tell us what.
Well, this guy builds all kinds of stuff. He builds churches and apartment buildings and convention centers, all sorts of things. And he uses all different kinds of construction. And his point is, for a school, for this large span construction, there is no better way to build a building in terms of cost and efficiency. This building should be 50% cheaper to heat and cool than a building of similar size. We're looking at a 22,000 square foot structure, so it's a big building.
That's significant savings.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal on that. Plus, it's very safe, and it's just, if you go in one of these things, they're light, they're airy. You feel good inside. It's hard to really tell you're inside a dome, but it's a great space. Yeah, just for the purpose, it's about the most economical way to build something.
Now let's get back to the need. Kathy, what's it like in the classrooms now?
Well, I think the biggest issue for me, and and for the intermediate school, I can speak for them, is heating. Our boilers are ancient. They can't buy parts for them. The parts have to be specifically made and ordered if something breaks down. There are days, our janitors are magicians. I don't know how they keep this thing working. But, there are days where, it's 35 degrees outside and my classroom is 40. And so we pack kids in there, and their body heat warms things up, but they wear coats, and so my biggest issue really is the heating issue. Is that
So the heat goes out, and it gets cold in the classroom.
Yes, it does.
And oftentimes you're counting on body heat to warm the classroom.
Right,
That
right.
doesn't seem very
And I
comfortable.
have to admit, the last time we had a big breakdown, the janitors or the school board, I don't know, bought us little space heaters that we could put in our classrooms that were, UL listed and safe and everything. So that was a help.
Okay.
But yeah,
Still, you're wearing heavy coats in classrooms while you're learning.
It's hard to learn when it's cold, and but like I said, our janitors work really hard. Kyle Findlay, I'll just give him a shout out. He is amazing. We don't stay out of heat very long, but still, when we don't have heat, it's pretty uncomfortable. We can't expect kids to learn in that kind of environment.
Well, I've seen those boilers, and they reminded me from a scene in Titanic. They just looked like those boilers of, 1930s vintage.
Yeah.
Or
Well, it's
before.
kind of what they are.
Yeah, they're old. They've done a good job of keeping them up. Folks that look at them are just kind of amazed at how long they've lasted. They're 20 years past their lifespan. The design lifespan was 40 years, and they're 60 years old. And so we've retooled them. We've worked on. In fact, the last bond they did a lot of work on the valves. They did a lot of work on those boilers. And they kept them going. But they're just kind of reaching the end of their life.
Yeah.
And there's more efficient ways to create heat now, I
Right.
would imagine. I just would have to think that 50% more efficiency would be probably an easy thing over what we have now.
Learn about 50%, but yeah, considerably, yeah. Yeah.
Now, there's an effort to pass this bond. We're calling it, it's called the campaign, right? We're out
Right?
spreading the word.
Yes for YC schools, I believe.
Yes for YC schools.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that effort.
Well, there's been a two-part effort on it. The school district's job is to inform people, and so we've done a pretty decent job of informing people. We're putting stuff out on our Facebook page. Yes for YC Schools, which is separate from the school, also has a Facebook page. They also have a website putting work out on that. That graph you showed is on there, and more graphs as well, sort of showing things. The school district has put a letter in everybody's box in the whole area, so everybody should have information what's there. We put a similar letter into report cards. boards, so parents got that information. We've held, we developed a video showing some of the behind the scenes, as we like to call it, the water leaks, the boilers, the things that people can't see from the outside that are breaking down, the mortar falling out of the bricks. And so that's had 16,000 views.
I've seen that video. Yeah. I'm one of the 16,000.
Right.
And there's how many buckets in the attic of the high school?
20. No, it's the intermediate school.
Intermediate school.
I think it's 21.
21 buckets are catching leaks so they don't go down through the ceiling.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's in that video.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Easy to
bad.
see on this Facebook page.
And then the Yes campaign is now beginning its effort. It's at community events. It's showing stuff. It's also going to do a telephone call campaign pretty soon. We're going to start calling people all over the school district to talk about what's going on, try and get their support. There'll be a canvassing effort pretty soon where we've got folks out walking the streets and talking with people about what's going on. Whenever there's a community meeting, you'll almost always see a Yes for YC Schools person there. Someone is there giving a speech and talking about things. We started a lot of our efforts at the schools simply because people gather at the schools. All sorts of people gather at the schools. But at this point, it'll start expanding out.
We've been to Rebecca Lodge, the Yamhill Community Club meeting coming up. Well, we're going to the American Legion in
Tomorrow night, yeah.
Carlton. So these are places I've seen the presentation, and you've probably done a lot more than that. There's going to be City Hall presentation in Yamhill.
Actually, it was already done in Carlton, and the City of Yamhill already wrote us a letter of support. We haven't done a presentation there yet. So lots of folks. We're doing our best to get it out there. Anybody that's interested can see either on our website. We have all the documents posted there. Our Facebook page, we're periodically putting things out. The Yes for YC Facebook page and website has it out there as well. I think we've done a good job getting it out, but the efforts have to continue. I really believe this bond is a good value for our community. It's not going to be that much longer before these buildings become too damaged to use. We're not that far out. And that's something people have to consider as we're looking through this. This represents a good value that we have our schools. We can keep them going for the next 20 years. We can build some really neat new facilities that are going to push our students' education forward, really help these things like the drones and the agriculture and the manufacturing, really push them along. And then we have really nice, safe places for kids to work. So we're excited about that.
The alternative is, if this bond fails, that the schools will cease to be a place that kids will probably want to learn if they're having to wear coats to be warm enough and have rain come through on their heads.
Right.
And so families will probably choose not to move there. Kids may be transferred to other schools.
Well, those are long-term decisions. It's hard to really know what people will do. I couldn't say that, but I know that when people do move to an area, they look at test scores.
Yes.
They drive into the schools and look at the conditions of the building, and it matters to people about what the schools are doing if they decide to locate in that community. So that's a first issue. More attractive schools mean a place that people want to live.
And teachers want to come and teach.
Teachers want to teach and put together a good program. We're excited about the work that we're doing. We believe we're doing a great job in the classrooms, but we also know that there's a real upper limit to what we can do if our facilities can't hold together.
Well, I think this bond measure is a great way to attract the teachers and the students that we want to educate here. I would like to see the school district is not on an upward path of growth, but
Right.
that would be a good thing for us.
It would help. We have a couple different issues going on. One of the issues is just housing. There's kind of a housing shortage out in Carlton and Yamhill. Not a lot of places for people to move in. People are having a little smaller families now. A lot of the housing that is moving in, we have a lot of retired folks moving in because they come for the wine and kind of the nice environment in Carlton.
Small.
Yeah, it's small. It's a very pleasant
Well,
place.
Charan,
to
we
live,
have to. We started a whole new subject, affordable
sorry
housing,
about that. Yeah.
and we will take that up in another show. Well, thank you for being with us here today. We've filled this time with good information that I hope has made you a supporter of YC Schools and the Yes for YC Schools bond measure. Local Matters, thank you.